All right. Good afternoon, evening, everybody. Thanks for joining me. We'll go ahead and get started here. If you got your questions, go ahead and post them. Should be below the video if you're on a smaller screen, like a phone. If you're on a larger screen, like a computer, then it should be to the right of the video. All right. We'll start with Kev M. Says, "Hi Q. Quick question, please. Could you do very slow motion from the top of the back swing to impact? I've been told that there should be virtually no wrist movement." And then another pro says the speed of the wrist creates clubhead speed. So now I'm massively confused. Thanks in advance. All right. So I don't do slow motion swings in the office hours because I just don't see the point of it. Because you're not going to be able to, I'm not really hitting a golf ball. So I'm not necessarily going to be doing exactly what I'd be doing when I hit a golf ball. If you want to see slow motion swings, go to YouTube and YouTube your favorite tour player and search slow motion and you can find it. As far as the wrists having no movement, that is total baloney. The wrists definitely have movement in the swing throughout a lot of the swing. There's wrist movement. So from the top of backswing to impact, yes, your wrists are going to be rotating. Your wrist could be bowing as you're coming down. Your wrist can be doing a lot of things. So don't overthink it. The wrists are also releasing the club. Imagine, think about it this way. Here's the top of the swing. How could I possibly hit the ball with my wrist in this position? I mean, I don't know how I can do it, right? My wrists have to release the club, right, to hit it. So the wrists are absolutely moving in the swing. And then goes on to say, following on the above, are these two very different methods of striking the ball? So there is wrist movement. Again, I don't know how. The only way you could hit it with no wrist movement would be this. That's just no power. If I did not move my wrist at all, right? I just held on to the club. There was no. I didn't, because here are the movements of the wrist, right? We have radial deviation, which you can call that hinging. You have ulnar deviation. I call that kind of thumbs out, thumbs away, or releasing, right? Then we have flexion, extension, where we go kind of knuckles back. Flexion is where we're palm down. And then we have rotation in our wrists. So we have pronation, which is going to be inward rotation, and then supination, which is the outward rotation. So let's say I had none of those movements in my wrist. The only way it would be like this would be my swing. If I had no wrist movement, like that's as much as I can. So in order to get the club where it needs to go, I need to hinge it up. I need to rotate it, right? Depending on your grip, you may need to bow your wrist, right? If you have a really weak grip, you may need to bow your wrist. So yeah, the wrists need to be doing things in order to do that. I don't know the context of the video. I don't recommend. This is the other thing too. I don't recommend listening to tons and tons of instructors because not everyone's going to have the same the same the same method or the same. So my philosophy, and this is really the Top Speed Golf's philosophy in general, is that there's lots of swings. There's lots of ways to swing the golf club, and there's very few universal truths that we see among the best players. So what I try to get players to do is I try to get players to do the things that I see all of the best players doing, and I try to let them do their kind of special swing signature, right? And that's really the best way to do it because you're going to be able to do mostly what you do naturally. The only things that you're going to need to change are things that don't things that we see all the best players do, right? So that's it. That's really what it comes down to. Don't overcomplicate it. Everyone's trying to overcomplicate it. It's really not. It's not super. It is complicated, but we can make it less complicated by thinking about it in that way, right? There's a kid that I saw. There's a kid that's playing in the U.S. Amateur, right? He made it to round of 32, maybe even 16. I don't remember exactly what it was. His golf grip is weird. It's nothing like I've ever seen. It's like a hockey grip. He holds it kind of like this. He kind of has his finger going down like this and holds it like that and hits it pure. and it hits it great with power and everything. And obviously doing really, I mean, he's one of the top amateur golfers in the country, right? So, I mean, there's lots and lots of ways to swing a golf club, folks. So I wouldn't get too in the woods about certain things. Following again, I understand. All right. But should I be hitting the ball or sweeping it? So if the ball is on the ground, we have to have, if the ball is on the ground, unless the ball is like sitting up on the grass, like it's on a tee, we need to have a downward angle attack into the ball because the ground's in the way, right? Imagine this. If I'm trying to hit a ball solidly off of this carpet, right? It's concrete basically underneath here. This is my ground floor, so this is just a slab, underneath here, and there's a little bit of padding on this carpet. I could possibly hit up on this just because it's carpet, but let's say it's grass and I'm going to dig into the grass, right? Well, I have to hit down on this ball. I have to. If I want to hit it solidly, I got to hit down on it at least a little bit, right? If I hit up on it, right, then the ground's in the way. I'm going to chunk it. I'm going to thin it. I'm going to top it. The only way you can hit up on it is if the ball is elevated, there's space underneath the ball to hit it. So that would be like if I have a lie where the ball's sitting up on the grass, I could hit up on it there. If the ball's up on a tee, like I would on the tee box with the driver, right, I can hit up on it there, right? But I need to hit down on it. You can sweep it if you have a really good lie, right? You can definitely sweep it if you have a great lie. And let me also understand. Let's understand what sweeping is. You can have a shot where the ball is on the ground and let's say it's really wet, it's tight, it's kind of a sloppy, muddy kind of lie. Well, you can barely make any contact with the ground. You'll take a divot, right? Well, now let's say that I have the ball's like really sitting up. It's like almost like a carpet-like fairway, and it's really dry and it's firm, right? The ground underneath it's really firm. Well, I can actually hit more down on that ball, and there will be no evidence that that a ball was struck because of the lie. So we have to be a little bit careful with sweeping, because it's you can sweep a ball. It just depends on the lie, right? It's like you're not taking a divot out of a mat, right? You're always sweeping it off of a mat every single time, whether you're chunking it or what. You're always sweeping it off of the mat because the club isn't digging into the mat, right? So you're always going to be sweeping it off of a mat. So, but you need to hit down on it on balls there on the ground. All right, so Jeff M says, hello, our course fairways have a lot of what would almost call moguls in them. So you're constantly hitting lies with ball above your feet, balls below your feet, balls on up. Okay. Some combination thereof. How should you adjust your ball position and or stance to make proper ball contact? So here's what I say about slopes. Go with the slope. Always go with the slope. So what that means is that if I have an uphill lie, then I'm going to be angling my body with that so I can swing with the slope, right? So when we're talking about spine angle, right, that's relative to the ground. So if my ground has an upward slope, I'm going to get more of a spine angle so I can swing with the slope. If I have a downward slope, then my spines actually might even be leaning toward the target if I have a downward slope, because my spine angle is going to go with the slope. We just have to understand that what the ball is going to do out of these lies, right? So if I have an uphill lie, you're essentially adding loft to the club, so that's going to make the ball go higher, right? If I have a downhill lie, right, that's essentially de-lofting the club. That's going to make the ball come out lower. So if you're trying to hit over something and you have a downhill lie, you're going to have a harder time with it, right, because the ball is going to come out lower. If you're trying to hit under something and you have an uphill lie, that's going to be more difficult because you have an uphill lie. It's going to come out higher, right? All right, now let's talk about side hill, right? If I have the ball above my feet, right, well, that ball is essentially closed. That lie is essentially closing the face, right? So if you look here, let's say this is a level lie. I have the face square. Well, now the ball's above my feet. Well, look where that's pointing now. Now it's pointing to the left, right? Now let's say the ball's below my feet, right? Well, look what happens to that. If the handle gets higher, then that face is going to start to point to the right. So you just got to play it for what's going to happen. Essentially, if I have a ball above my feet, that ball is going to tend to the face is going to be more close. If you are generally a fader of the ball, it might straighten it out, depending on how severe the slope is. Right? If you're a drawer of the ball, it's going to make it draw more. So I would aim more to the right. If the ball's below your feet, if you're a fader of the ball, it's likely going to fade more. Right? If you're a drawer of the ball, it may go straight. It may still draw. It just depends on the severity of it. These are things you got to practice and that you learn through doing them and through experience. Right? So that's what I would do is I'd play with the slopes. I would only play against the slope if you absolutely must. So an example might be, let's say that the ball's above your feet, right? And let's say you're a drawer of the ball, and let's say that there's you can't really aim more out to the right because you're going to hit stuff out to the right. Well, in that situation, you may try to kind of fade it off that slope, or you just take your medicine and you chip out or whatever, right? So that's really what it comes down to. You're not really changing. If the ball's above your feet, that'd be about, I would choke up on the club maybe a little bit, take a little extra club and maybe choke up on it. If the ball's like above your feet. On a downhill lie, if you're trying to get it up higher, you can use more loft, but again, it's going to go shorter. It's probably going to go a little bit shorter. On an uphill lie, you can use less loft, right? To make you choke up on. So let's say you have an uphill lie, and again, this is all about the severity of the lie. If it's a little bit uphill, you may not make any change, and you just understand, okay, it's going to come out a little bit. But if it's a big, severe slope, uphill slope, and you don't want to hit the ball a mile up in the air, so let's say you got 150 out, let's say you hit a 9-iron to 150, right? And you have a big uphill lie. Well, if you hit that 9-iron, it's probably going to end up short because you're just going to hit a mile up in the air. So what you might want to do is take like 8, maybe a 7-iron, choke up on it. That's going to you're going to take a little bit of that slope, the loft that was added from the slope, and give you a more normal ball flight, right? And you may need to take a little bit off of it. How much you take off is going to depend on the slope. So these are just some things you're going to have to practice. Learn by doing and practice. Go out and play practice rounds on this course and get a feel for it of those lies. So, but the ball's below your feet. You're just going to be bent over more, but expect the ball to fade more. If the ball is a downhill slope, like I said, you can use more loft, but again, if you use less club, it's not going to go as far. So you just have to understand it's going to come out lower. And when it comes out lower, it may not. If you got a shot that's low lofted club to begin with, let's say it's a 6-iron, and you got a downhill lie. Well, it may run out a little bit, right? But you don't really need to change the ball position. You can move it a little bit more back if you feel like you're going to hit behind it on that downhill lie. Remember, if you play it more back, it's going to come out even lower. So I would just practice these shots. The big thing about the uphill one is to make sure that you shift your weight forward and not hang back on your back foot. Because if you hang back on your back foot, you're also going to add more loft from that. So when you're swinging on uphill slope, you just got to make sure you're getting your weight shift forward and you're swinging with the slope. But yeah, you're not really changing the ball position or anything like that. It's just going with the slope and understanding what the ball's going to do with the slope and then make adjustments based on that. So Alan E says, as I start my downswing and pull the club down, the momentum causes me to lose the lag in my wrists. When my hands get to trail thigh, I have lost much of my lag. What drills or strategies can you suggest to work on this so that I can get better and maintain my lag? Alan, we actually have a course dedicated to lag. That's what I'd recommend that you work through. So if you click the instruction tab at the top of the screen, that will take you, or if you click the instruction tab, then you can click Top Speed Golf System, and then you can click the top speed lag course from there. So basically walks you through how to get lag. It's basically a course on getting lag. So that's what I'd recommend that you do, is work through that course to help you to get some lag. Without seeing your swing and knowing exactly what's going on, I can't give you anything specific. If you want more specific stuff, I would recommend signing up for the online lessons. I can actually see your swing and see, oh yeah, okay, what this is what's going on. This is what you need to do. But without that, I would just recommend working through that top speed golf lag section, and you'll be able to get the lag if you stick with it. All right, let's keep going here. Jeff M says, great answer. Thanks for clarifying that for me. That helps me understand the physics of it much better. Another question somewhat related to the last one. I'm only 5'5" tall, so when I buy clubs, they're always longer on me than taller guys, so I end up having a shallower club than the taller guys, and I'm wondering how I should adjust my stance, ball position, distance, etc., to make crisp contact. I'd recommend getting professionally fitted for your clubs. Really, it's most likely the lie angle might be a little. It can make it a little bit more difficult where your heel is coming in. But if you have great divots, if you're making square divots, because you might, a very common thing that a lot of people have is early extension, right? So where our hips kind of move forward, the handle gets high. Well, if you're already kind of shorter, right? I'm 5'11" basically, not quite 6 foot tall. So I generally use standard length clubs. And if your hands, let's say if you're shorter, your hands are down here. Well, when you're coming through contact, if you're kind of standing up a little bit, that might be getting the club kind of level with the ground, and you may be just fine, right? But if you're coming in and you're coming in heel down, I'd maybe get them flattened out. The only way to really know is to get professionally fitted. But I would look at your divots. If your divots are square, then you're good. You don't need to get them fitted. Now, if your divots are square and you're using standard off-the-shelf clubs and you're standing up out of it, right, and then you were to change that, and then you start noticing you're getting heel down divots, then you may want to get professionally fitted or to get these flattened out a little bit to get them to where you're getting more crisper divots. That's all it really is, though. It's just about finding the length of the club and lie angle combination that works the best for you. I've known, when I was in high school or, junior high, I used adult clubs. They were off the shelf clubs, and, I still made fine contact. So it's more about, you're not really going to know what you need to do unless you get professionally fitted. So that's what I'd recommend you do. I always seem to hit real high, more arcing shots than penetrating ball flight. Yeah, that's probably because if you're hitting it really high, then you're most likely kind of standing up and flipping, right? So working through the top speed golf system to get that club to release more out in front will help you to get there. Hit my 7-iron, 150 yards, but I feel like I could hit it longer if I could figure out how to change my stance. Yeah, the stance isn't the problem. It doesn't sound like. It's probably more that it's probably not the clubs either. It's probably more that how you're coming through impact. If you're hitting the ball really, really high, most likely you just have an early release, right? So look at your swing on video. If you look on video and you're not releasing that club, out in front, 40, 45 degrees, like Clay talks about in the straight line release course, then you probably need to work through the top speed golf system to get that working better. Also, if you're a slicer of the ball, that's going to make the ball go higher too, because when you slice it, you're opening the face to the path. When you open the face of the path, you're gonna tend to hit the ball higher as well, because opening the face adds loft. Adding loft makes the ball go higher. So the 20-minute shallowing fix might be something that you need to do, because a draw does the opposite, right? If you get a draw, the face has to be closed to the path. When you close the face, it delofts it, right? So that's why I generally recommend most golfers hit draws, because most golfers tend to hit the ball too high in early release. So if we hit a draw, that gets that ball flight down a little bit easier to control. Not everybody needs that, but some people need it. So Greg T says, hey Q, when I watch golf on TV, I see many players loop the club on the downswing. Is this something they are doing intentionally to shallow the club? I'm not sure what you mean by loop the club on the downswing. I'm not sure what you mean by that. It's not like a technical term. Watch players, many loop the club on the downswing. Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean by that exactly. I mean, all the best players in the world shallow out the club, so my guess the answer is yes. So basically, here's what I would do if you want to make sure that you're shallowing out the club. Get out the video camera, and then get it set up down your toe line. This is more important than the video itself, because if you don't have the camera set up correctly in the correct perspective, you're just not going to get the information that you're looking for. And I'll explain that here, why that is here in a minute. So where we want it is we want it down the toe line, right? So we want it down the toe line. The easiest way to do that is to take a club or an alignment stick, place it on the ground, point it at a target that you're going for, and then take your camera and line it up directly with it. So when you're looking at it on camera, this alignment stick is straight up and down vertical on the camera, all right? And then you want it at hip level. So I would recommend using like a tripod or something like that to get it at hip level. If you go on Amazon, you can search on tripod phone mount or something like that, and you can, you can get it there. And then you also want to have the camera far away enough to where you and the club stay in the frame. So, this would be too close. You can see my foot's cut off. When I go up to the top, the club goes out of frame. It's too close. I would actually err on the side of being too far away, if anything. All right. So we want to be down the toe line. We want to be hip level. And we want to be far away enough to where you and the club stay in the frame throughout the entire swing. The reason is, if you watch here, if I'm here, right, let's say I'm in a good spot right here, right? We got a good camera angle. Well, now what I'm going to do is let's imagine this is what a lot of people do. And I only know this because I have a lot of people that send me videos of their swing through the online lessons and stuff like that. And I get a lot of videos like this where people set up the video down the ball line, right? Because it's a very normal, if you don't know any better, this is a very normal thing to do. I did it the first time because I had my ball there. I set up my camera right behind my ball, and then I went to hit it thinking everything was fine because I didn't know any better about the camera angles. And the reason why that's a problem is when you go to draw lines on it, it's from the wrong perspective. So now, let's say I have it set up down the ball line like this, and let's say I have it, right there. So that actually looks like a good spot, right? But now if we have I'm not going to change where the club is. I'm just going to put where the good camera angle is. Now look where the club is outside my hands. It's all about the camera angle, right? We're looking at something that's in 3D, but we're looking at it in 2D. So it's so important to have the perspective correct, right? So that's the most important thing when you're videoing your swing. And then just do it the same way every single time. So that way you're comparing apples to apples, and you're not looking at a swing where one day you have the swing set up differently, and then you look at your swing again days later, you set up the camera a different way, and now the swing looks way different, or you feel like you made progress on something when the reality is that you didn't, or you may have gone the other way even. So that's why it's important. So once you get the camera set up correctly and you video your swing, what you're going to do is you're going to draw a line from the middle of the ball up to the middle of your elbow. And what we want to see is we want to see that club getting underneath that line just a little bit as it's coming down. Let me actually see if this works. I don't know if it's going to work very well, but I'll try to show you on this iPad. All right. Bear with me here. Okay. So here's Adam Scott. This is a perfect camera angle. We're down the toe line. We can see we got the the shallowing line drawn on there. That goes from the ball up to the middle of the elbow. And what we want to see is we want to see that club tracking underneath. So watch how this is just underneath that line. See, it's tracking underneath all the way down until it gets to the ball. It kicks out at the ball. That's textbook. That's what you want to see right there. That's Adam Scott, right? So you can see how that club gets underneath that line, tracks underneath it all the way down, right? So that's how you can check to see if you're shallowing. If you're a lot more than that underneath the line, then you're overdoing it. I see that sometimes where we're overdoing it. It's somewhat rare. I see more people are definitely over that line than under that line. But that would be, what you'd want to look at. So you'd want to get those hands working down and the club kind of working down underneath the hands. So that's what I'd recommend doing if you are struggling with shallowing out the club and things like that. That's how you can check it. If that's what you mean by looping the club. That's just shallowing out the club. That's what we want to do. We want to get that club just underneath there as it's coming down. Then you're going to be in a good spot. But you got to make sure your camera angle is correct to be able to assess that. Now, let's say you're coming down above that. What I'd recommend doing is working through the 20-minute shallowing fix. I would also recommend picking up this is the training aid that Clay created. This is called the Blue Brick. If you haven't seen some emails on it, you can go to the resources tab on the website and you can find the link for it. But there's some really cool things you can do with shallowing out the club in here. So one is it's got these slots on it up here, and this is where you can put your alignment stick. So it tells you shallowing too, so there's no confusion. So we got a driver slot, we got a 6-iron slot, and we got a wedge slot. So I got a wedge right here. So if I'm working on wedge shallowing, I'm going to put this stick in there. It's going to put it right at that perfect angle, right, that I need. So this is basically that line that I was just talking about, right? It's more upright for a wedge because it's a shorter club and it has it's more upright lie angle, right? But that's essentially, that line. If I were to kind of set up like this, you can see how that line is going from where the ball would be up to the middle of my elbow. But I'm just scooted over here a little bit, right? So I can get underneath it. But if I'm getting underneath it, I know I'm getting underneath that line, right? So I can set up this ball. I like for this, the videos that Clay put out may be a little bit different, but this is just how I like to set it up. I like to set it up to where the stick is right in front of my right foot, my trail foot. So if you're looking from this angle, the stick would be like this, right in line with my right foot, my right ankle. So that's where I have it from that angle. And then the ball would be, there's another alignment stick that you could put in right here. I won't because I don't have that space there. But I'm going to put that there. And then I'm just going to have this club just the inside of that, or the ball just the inside of that, right? So I'm set up where I need to be. The reason why I like having that there is because I want to get my hands working a little bit underneath it as well, right? So now I know if I can get underneath that. This is really my favorite drill for shallowing because it also helps with early extension, because I feel like I got to get underneath this thing to get that to work, right? Whereas let's say I just put like a box there or something, well, I can stand up out of it and get it to work from the inside. Whereas if I did that with the stick there, I'd still be hitting that stick. So that's why I really like this drill, because I got to get my hands lower. In order to do that, I got to get my butt back and I got to rotate my body as I'm coming in to be in a good spot. So it's a great drill to kind of help you with that. Start out slow, then build it from there. But that's what I'd recommend doing. Now, this is if you're really having trouble doing it. If you can get the ball to start to the right and curve to the left without doing this, right, standing way up out of it, then you don't need this, right? You don't need to do that drill. But if you are someone who is doing that, then putting this there will prevent you to do that. There's another one you can do for an inside swing, just to make sure that you're swinging from the inside. but it will enable you to do early extension. But you might find it a little bit easier. So if you look on the blue brick, you see right here it says inside swing right there. So if you put it in that slot, I'm gonna have to do it over here. All right, so if you put it in that slot, it basically puts that stick to where it's kind of at an angle. And basically, if I imagine I'm hitting the ball that way, I'm going to put that ball right underneath the tip of that stick, right? So if I'm right behind it, it's right in line with it. And then it's just over the tip of the stick here. So now I got to hit balls. If I come over the top, right? If I come over the top, I'm going to hit that stick. I got to swing from the inside to avoid hitting that stick to hit that ball. So that's another drill that you can do to help you to swing more from the inside. But yeah, really excited about the blue brick. They just released it. Clay spent over a year designing this thing and working with other companies and stuff. But yeah, like how it turned out. It comes with alignment sticks too. Actually, these alignment sticks are pretty cool. They're collapsible, so you can see how you don't have to like put them in your golf bag where the clubs are. You can just kind of put them in the side pocket because they're collapsible, and then you can just bring them out and put them together. And it's like elastic inside here, so it'll kind of go together almost by itself. You just got to make sure it's all together, and then there you go. You got your alignment stick. So those are nice to have. But there's lots of drills you can do with this thing. I recommend it. It's a great practice tool. All right, we got about 30 minutes left. If we have any more questions. Jeff asked, where do you go on the site to order the blue brick? So if you go to the resources tab, I believe it's resources. It could be tools. So if you look at the top of the screen, there should be some tabs up there. And there's one that says resources. If you select that, that will bring you the page with all the training aids and things that we recommend. Obviously, we're going to recommend the blue brick since Clay designed it. So I believe it's at the top there. It's one of the first training aids that's on there. But yeah, definitely recommend it. Awesome training aid. Any questions about the blue brick, I'll be happy to answer as well. So yeah, if you got any other questions other than where to buy it, there might be a little bit of a waiting list on it right now. Let me check, because I know we sold out of the first batch that we ran. Let me see here. Oh, it says back in stock. Awesome. Let's see here. The other cool part about it is it will come with, it's got a QR code on it. So if you go to that QR code, when you get the blue brick, it has a bunch of drills that you can do with it. So it comes with this little card, or it'll look something like this. But yeah, check it out. Really cool device. So Jeff M says, I went there and it's got to go to a video about it, but it's just spinning circle. I'm assuming the ordering is on a link on the video, but it won't play. No, I think if you go to that and you click the thing where it says, yes, I want to try the blue brick trainer today, it brings you to where you can pay for it. So just go there and click the green button. It'll take you to the checkout screen. All right, so Larry L says, what is the position of the palm of your right hand at the top of your backswing? Also, what would be the face of your iron look like at the top? So basically, we want the palm of the hand to be pointing toward the sky, almost like you're a waiter holding a tray. All right, so if I go up to the top of the screen, at the top of the swing, all right, I'm going to have my palm of my hand kind of pointing up toward the sky. So it's going to be more like that. So you see that's the equivalent of that, right? And as far as the face orientation, generally what we like to see, or what I like to see, is I like to see the club face a little bit close to your lead forearm. So if you're going up to the top of the screen and you look at the angle of your forearm, and if you look at the club face, I like to see the club face a little bit close to that. All right, so if you're looking here, like trying to get to where, there we go. So if you're looking here, you can see how the club face is pretty close to that. That would be club face pretty open to my forearm. That would be the club face very close to my forearm, right? So that's why I talk about if you have a weak grip where your thumb's kind of going straight down the top of the shaft, right? If you go to the top of the swing, right? If you have a flat wrist, your face is going to be a little bit open to the forearm. So we got to bow it a little bit, right? If I have a neutral grip, right, where my hand's a little bit more turned on the grip, well, now that's going to tend to be better to have a flat wrist at the top. You can see how my club face is now a little bit close to my forearm. And then if I have a really strong grip, right, then I can actually have some cupping in my wrist at the top. You see I have a little bit of cupping there, and then my club face is in a good spot, right? If I have too much, it gets too open, right? But yeah, if I bow it and I have a strong grip, well, look at my club face now. It's pointing way back behind me. That face is going to be too closed, right? So generally what I'm looking at for club face orientations are, when we get to first parallel, I like to see it pretty close to matching the spine angle, right? So my back line at the top, a little bit close to the forearm. At back down here, I like to see it pretty close to the spine angle. And that impact, I like to see it, square, essentially square, pretty close to square. But if the face is open, right, if you have the club face, really what I would look at first is where the club face is pointing in the downswing at this first parallel position. If it's pointing up to the sky, it's going to be tough, because you're so close to impact, right? It's going to be tough to square that up without standing up and flipping, right? You're probably already doing it by the time you're getting there, right? So if you want to get shaft lean and stay in your posture and all that stuff, you're going to want to have that club face angle down just a little bit, kind of matching your spine angle. If we have it down too much, right, it's tough to get enough shaft lean to accommodate that, right? So if we have it pretty close to in line with our spine, then that's going to allow you to get an appropriate amount of shaft at impact. Now, if you're someone who has a lower club head speed, you're hitting your driver 200 yards tops, right? You can have it a little bit more open, more perpendicular with the ground, because you're going to want a little bit more of a release at the ball to get the ball up in the air, because you may not have enough club head speed to support the amount of shaft lean that you would need to have if you have the club face kind of angled down a little bit. So, if I have the club face angled down a little bit, that's going to generally put me in a position like this, right? So now, not necessarily. I mean, I can have that club face angled down and be like this. The club face is just going to be closed, right? Because when you release the club, it closes the face a little bit. All right, got about 20 minutes left. If we have any more questions. Larry L says, when will the ball then turf masterclass begin? Can you give me a little preview? I'm not sure when they're going to sell it again. But basically, I don't really have a preview for you. You might be able to go to the page and see a preview, but I don't have a preview for you. But I'm not sure. I'm not in on when they're going to market it and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know exactly when they're going to do that. But basically, it's weight shift. It's making sure we got good ball position. It's drills to make sure that we're not coming over the top. Because when you come over the top, you can get the bottom of your swing to be more in front of the ball. But the problem is you're coming over the top. So some of the drills are about I want to swing from the inside, but also be able to make a good ball first divot. It's about using feedback. So if you're using like a mat, what we like to do is take like some masking tape or like painter's tape and put it on the mat right behind the ball, and then that gets you, that gets you in a good spot to where you're getting some good feedback. The divot board is also a great tool to use for that. You can get that from the resources tab. All things you can do pretty easily. You have to give lessons on CAPTCHA. I finally got through and placed the order. Thanks. CAPTCHA. Oh, the thing that makes sure you're not a robot. I think that's what you're talking about. Yeah. So I don't know exactly what it is usually, but sometimes they'll ask you like how many, bridges do you see in this picture? You just count the number of bridges that you see, or that. I mean, it's gonna if you don't get it on the first one, it usually gives you a second one or something like that. Just pay attention and do what it's asking you to do. It's basically set up to where a robot wouldn't be able to do it. That's kind of the whole thing, because there's all these companies, or not all these companies, but there's like bots out there that are on the internet just do that wreak havoc on the internet. So that's just a security thing. So that way we're making sure only humans are on the website. So I'm not sure how to give lessons on not being a robot. All right. So DB says, last week you gave me a drill, hit the ball in the sweet spot, which helped tremendously. I'm crushing the ball better than ever, but I seem to be hitting left of my intended target. I have a draw to a small hook, but struggling to hit target. I know it's tough without seeing my swing. Any suggestions? Yeah, if you're drawing the amount that you want, right? If you're getting a little bit of a draw on there, but it's too far left, you can either. I mean, if you're left of the target every time, you can just aim more to the right and just play for your draw. That's one option. The other option would be you need to swing more to the right to be able to get the ball to start more to the right. So that's what I would try to do. Feel like you're swinging more toward third base, right? Because basically, let's say you're bringing the club down and you're a little bit over the top, and the face is a little bit closer. You're getting a draw, starting a little bit left and drawing more to the left. Well, if I just took all of that and just shifted it and aimed it to the right, well, that would do it. That'd probably be the easiest way to do it. You just got to understand that Now, when some people do that, they swing differently. So you just got to make the same swing and understand, like, okay, I'm trying to hit the ball over there, but I know that if I just make my swing, it's going to draw, right? So that's one way you can do it. The other way to do it would be, okay, I still want to line up with the target, but if my ball is going left and left, then I need to swing more to the right. So that way my ball can start to the right and curve to the left. Now, some people might be saying, well, doesn't the club face determine where the ball starts? Yes, you are exactly right. It does. But your club face is going to go with your path, right? So if I'm swinging 2 degrees to the left and my face is 4 degrees closed, right? Well, when I change my path, and let's say I go, 4 degrees to the right with my path, well, my club face is going to go with that, right? So my club face was 2 degrees close to my path over there. It's going to stay 2 degrees close to my path, right? It's not like it's going to be still really, really close to my target. So that's why I say swing more to the right, because if you swing more to the right, it will move your face as well. Your face is going to go with it. Generally speaking, it doesn't necessarily always do, but generally it does. I'd recommend be working through the 20-minute shallowing fix as well, because you're probably just not shallowing out the club enough, right? So the 20-minute shallowing fix to help you to swing more from the inside, get the ball start to the right and curve to the left, then you tone it down. To get to the 20-minute shallowing fix, click the instruction tab at the top of the screen, then go to the 20-minute shallowing fix from there. All right, we got a little over 5 minutes or so left. No problem, Jeff. Glad to help. All right, we got a few more minutes left if anybody has any more questions.
Hey, Ed.
Just a quick reminder, we will not have office hours on Thursday or Friday. I'll be out of town. Just a heads up. All right, we'll go ahead and wrap it up right there. Thanks everybody for joining me. We'll be back here tomorrow, Tuesday, 11 a.m. Everybody have a great rest of your evening, and we'll talk to you all next time.